This game is the peak male fantasy. You can drink at the fantasy tavern, gamble, and play a tabletop war game with other men. Hello there, I'm Torinesan and this is Tabletop Tavern, a new roguelike RTS game that combines the Battle of Total War with a campaign map that looks like this. And today I'm gonna use my superior tactics from Total War Warhammer 3 to crush my enemies. Trust me, I learned from the best. I'll tell you more about the game as we progress, so let's start with setting up the first campaign. At the time of this recording, the game offered 8 factions, but I only cared about 2 of them. First, the basic human fighter, because it's good to start with a vanilla before trying out some more spicy thing. It's a good warm-up is what I mean. Then, the pointy-eared elves, because I love ranged, I love nature, and these elves got it all. Each faction provides different campaign bonuses, and the lords, or heroes, have hero buffs. At the start, only the first lords of the factions are unlocked. So, my first pick was Sir Edric Veilward, who starts with 10 gold, a dashing beard, and 2 buffs. The Old Guard, which gives a plus 4 melee attack and plus 10 leadership to rare units, and Take Back Our Land, providing a plus 2 charge bonus to all units. Now, the important part here is the plus 10 leadership, because units lose morale much quicker here than in Total War, and they don't recover once broken. Later, I can change my starting units and pick starting gear, but these are not unlocked yet. So let's begin. Every campaign starts with opening a chest to grab an item. These items can be insanely good for your early campaign or something that will be useful later. This time I got Ballistic Charge that gives plus 20 accuracy to ranged units, Shan Guide providing uncommon units with plus 8 to melee attacks, and Diamond-tipped arrows adding armor piercing to ranged units. You can see it on my army roster that I have only common units and one of them is an archer. So, naturally, I picked the one that buffs uncommon units. Why? Because I am a strategist who cannot read or see colors. After picking the first gear, I am presented with a choice. The campaign follows the classic roguelike game design. It's made out of these nodes, and each node can be one of those events. The first 3 options are skirmishes. 2 of these are fought on a map with forests and 1 on a plain field. In this game, forests mean that certain parts of the battle map will offer ranged damage resistance and removing charge bonus. I only have infantry, but one of them is an archer, so I went for the plain field. And plain fields are, well, plain. No buffs or debuffs. These early skirmishes only have small enemy forces, and they are mainly here to help with early recruitments and gold. My first battle was against some goblins and their pets. The auto-resolve predicted the victory, but I knew it would damage my units a lot more. And I enjoy playing on the tabletop. Unlike in Total War, where you just set up an army, here you have to roll for initiative. You roll a 3 or below, you deploy first. You roll 4 or above, you deploy second. I rolled a 5, which means I can see how my enemy set up their army. That blue circle will become relevant later. I don't have a lot of units to worry about, so I didn't change the default arrangement. Army controls are very much the same as in Total War, so I pushed my army forward. Right now the enemy has very weak stats, so I let my swordsmen take care of these gobos. Archers don't have friendly fire, so I don't have to change their targets even when my own units blob around the enemy. These low-tier gobos were of course no match for my army. I didn't lose a single soldier this battle. So, that's the first victory of the campaign. And I think we know who was the MVP here. It is time to claim my rewards. After each skirmish, I have the option to collect the bounty, recruit new units, and we are presented with a choice. Sometimes this choice can include salvaged gear, but that's not important right now. And speaking of recruiting units, this is how you can build your army. There are no recruitment buildings or empire economy, just good old RNG. Early in the campaign, the choices are mostly limited to common and uncommon units. This time I was presented with 3 common units, and I decided to pick the horses so I could deal with the enemy range more easily. And because I love knights, but the real knights, not the Bretonnian simps. The gobos had worse stats than my units, so I just picked the gold. And the next turn, I was offered another 3 choices. Apparently this game likes number 3. It is a magical number. To the left we have a campfire that offers healing, level up a random unit, find a random gear, or reveal the hidden events. In the middle we have another skirmish. And to the right we have something unknown, which can be any of the existing events. For me, the question mark was hiding a skirmish in rain. Rain means that large units are 50% slower and have no charge bonus, because alongside the rain, weather can also influence the battle. And yes, the cavalry is considered a large unit. So the RNG is already in my favor. But my enemies are still tiny gobos, so I chose not to care. This time, I decided to adjust the unit placement a little bit because cavalry has to be on the sides. I marched forward with my army to meet the gobos, and yes, my cavalry visibly was struggling with the wet grass. You don't want them to slip, do you? I saw that the hounds were trying to go around on the left side to my archers, so I sent my spears to counter them, because they are also considered large. Well, I guess compared to the gobos. Seeing this, they tried to flank my swordsmen, and flanking in this game can be very powerful. Now, despite the slippery grass, my horses charged into the gobo archers and the battle was basically over. Following the victory, I picked another spearman and the gobo archer unit, because I just love archers, no matter the size. The next stop was one of two villages. One from Cafe, I mean the Sakura Dynasty, and one from Raven Host, not Norska. In these settlements, I have the option to raid or to enter peacefully. I chose to enter peacefully because I wanted to see what they had to offer, and I didn't want to do a siege battle without siege weapons. This meant that my gobos got healed and I was able to recruit a unit from the owner faction, for free! Because that's what my faction does. I guess we have good marketing. Now, shockingly, I chose the archers. But these archers have a special trait called Outriders. What's Outriders, you ask? It's just Vanguard deployment, that's it. It's a legally distinguishable Vanguard deployment. Settlements also allow you to deposit gold into your piggy bank so you can spend it on upgrades for future campaigns. Otherwise, if you lose the campaign, you lose the gold you had on you. Then there was only one path forward. Into the unknown. Turns out it was a shop. Not that I could afford anything, unless I might have a solution. So, I bought a well-honed axis item. This item gives plus 10 melee attack to armor-piercing units, which at the moment I had none of course. But we are planning long-term. So I took my 0 gold and went to the next shop. It was a quick visit. Next stop revealed itself to be a campfire. Since only our gobos were a little hurt, I chose to level up a random unit. Now our swordsmen were fancier. Because here, units don't level up with XP from the battles, they have prestige levels. There are random events that can level up the units, or if you have 3 of the same, you can combine them into one higher prestige version. But then I thought my gobos deserve some rest and healing, so I put them into reserves. After a nice camping session, I picked the Sanguine Castle as my next stop. The other settlement was Iron Legion, but since I was playing them, I wanted to see what the undead had to offer, and what they had offered was the first uncommon unit I was able to recruit. Then the game reminded me, again, that I'm broke. I reached another campfire and this time my beloved horses leveled up. After this I had to choose between a castle and a rainy battlefield. My army was full health, but I had no gold, so I decided to go and fight. This time I was heavily outnumbering my enemy and even forgot to bring in my gobos. My Total War habits flared up seeing an army of more than 3 peasants, so I created this formation. For some reason my army decided to disrespect the gobos by turning to a completely different direction. Needless to say, the battle was very one-sided. I kinda felt bad for them. I mean, just look at all these dead bodies. Even the rain can't wash away all that red. But anyway, it's time to loot. I finally have some gold. And the time for the first boss battle has come. Each act has a stronger boss army to defeat at the end, but you see, these battles have some great rewards. And currently, one run involves 3 acts. I told you, the game loves the number 3. This time the auto-resolve predicted the defeat. So, just like in Total War, I had to prove it wrong. Oh no, wait. Adding the gobos turned it into a victory. I don't know what we feed them, but it clearly works. The enemy army was more respectable, especially these legendary siege claws. These will hurt. Unfortunately, I had to deploy first, so I had no idea where the siege weapons will be. But the armies were in place and it was time to charge in. The primary target was to delete the artillery, and fortunately my horses were on the correct side. Yeah, those boulders hurt. But this won't stop the might of the Empire, Iron Legion. The front lines clashed and the battle looked quite even for a moment. However, my horses quickly caught up to the siege class on the right, and on the left the Gobopult were also disabled. With that advantage gone, the balance of power started to shift in my favor. I quickly surrounded the enemy and crushed their morale. A glorious victory for mankind. And some gobos. Now, I know these battles seem easy since I am on the lowest difficulty, but as the title suggests, I suck at these games. And to go higher difficulty, I have to first win on the lower ones. After the battle, unfortunately, I didn't get the legendary siege weapon. But at least I got the rare Gobopult. We all know how effective flying gobos can be. As a bonus, I grabbed some cannons. Let's go into Act 2. Welcome to the Silken Reaches. This means our enemy will be the Sakura faction. Act 2 and 3 start with a campfire, allowing me to recover some health before going forth. Next, I wanted to see what the book event does. Yes, I love books. So much so that I didn't see the fog weather on the battlefield. You could say my vision was foggy. Unfortunately, this means that my ranged units have 50% less range and accuracy. And I think the game sensed my enthusiasm for the artillery, because it threw free at me. I may love dwarves, but damn! The auto resolve predicted a defeat again, but I had explosive gobos. I had to deploy first, but I didn't really care because I had the superior numbers anyway. The battle began and you can see that my Gobopult randomly started to aim behind the army. The cause of this is actually an enemy unit because they had an Outrider. Outrider means Vanguard, and the AI likes to drop enemy units behind the player. It also gave me this notification. I have no idea what happened here, however it did create a little bit of chaos. Despite my lack of control over the army, I was still able to make them attack. Sadly, my new cannons were sniped by the enemy, but this meant my soldiers reached them without a hit. Oh, by the way, the artillery deals friendly fire. A good time to mention, this is being developed by one dude. He patches the game almost daily, so we can forgive some bugs. In the midst of chaos, I forgot to order my artillery to not shoot the blob, but it's fine. We can blame it on my last Skaven campaign. Not being able to issue movement orders made this battle a little bit more painful, but I won anyway. Once the battle ended, I realized I could withdraw my cannons to save them, because routing units cannot be killed. I'm sure I will remember next time. I picked the recruit survivors, hoping that I can get their rare siege weapon, but I got the rare samurai guys instead. Those cannons were tempting, but they were made in foreign land. However, I wouldn't say no to those Kaiser cannons. So let's check that book. These random scenarios offer various rewards and punishments based on the outcome, which is decided by a dice roll. Because I had a large army, I chose to hunt these beasts, but I demanded the payment up front. If I roll higher than then, I can get some gold and level up a unit. This time RNG was on my side. With this roll, I could have even gotten the highest rewards, but I'm not sure there was any difference. Now, if I rolled lower than I wanted, I could have influenced the dice roll. For example, I can spend gold on it, but I didn't have to. As my reward, my horses leveled up, so they are golden now, and I got 25 gold. I like this game. After the successful hunt, I visited the next town so my units could heal, and I wanted to put away some money. I checked what units can be recruited here, since it's free anyway. Now, do you see that red square in the right corner of the cards? So that means that if I pick either of those, my units can prestige up. Yeah, it would have been nice if I realized that. So moving on. As my army was still bruised from the previous fight, I headed for the campfire. This healed us fully, so we could go to the shop. This time with money. Loot just offered a horseshoe. I thought that I had enough of them with my cavalry, but maybe they are not special enough. Nonetheless, it was providing post-battle loot and I would never complain about more loot. Right before heading out, I decided to also purchase the Fat Shine Elixir. Fate Shine Elixir. I swear I can read. It can come in handy when I need to roll a 20. Guess if I ever use it. The path ahead was unknown. Literally. So my army discovered a haunted chapel. And yes, this is a perfect opportunity to use my new potion, but there was a whole other act still ahead of me. What if I need it later? I chose to investigate the chapel, which required a 13, and I rolled a 13. See, the potion would have been a waste. This time I got 20 gold and my Gobopult leveled up. The next stop was Frosthaven, but there is no snow. You remind me of Iceland. Anyway, we entered the castle peacefully and I checked out the units. From this selection, I chose to upgrade my frontline. Yes, I know, that bolt thrower looks good, but I needed something stronger than my swordsman. Frontline is important. Then I put away some money and headed to the next battle. Despite the fog, this battle was easy. I mean, just look at the numbers. My gobos outranged everything they had. The gobos shot first and the enemy was forced to march forward. Then I changed its target to focus on the enemy bombardiers, but kept the cannons on the incoming enemy. The reduced range made them more effective that way anyway. Meanwhile, the enemy sent his cavalry to the flanks, but my frontline had it covered. And something about this battle just looked so epic with the fog effect. I was so distracted by it, I almost missed my riders reaching the enemy siege weapons. In fact, my riders almost missed them as they had barely any health left to fight. Their bombardiers stood no chance. And yes, I did forget about the cannon's friendly fire, again. And it's time to tell you what these icons mean. The yellow means my horses are flanking the enemy unit, and the red mark means the unit is being flanked. Flanking in this game is quite straightforward. The flanked unit gets a large moral penalty and its melee defense is lowered by 50%. So the enemy started to crumble pretty fast. One final charge into the back and the battle was over. Thanks to the horseshoe that I bought, I got a minor health potion, which I immediately used to heal 50% of my undead unit. And I felt like it was time to upgrade the bows into crossbows. The peasant ratio in my army was going down rapidly. Money was not an issue currently, so I was curious who else we could recruit. And as much as I loved my riders... Come on, it's samurai horses! I had to pick it. After this, I felt like my gear could be upgraded too, so I visited the shop. It gave me a cookie and a foul card which makes the first consumable free in the shop. Unfortunately, I had no space. So I just put it back on the counter and left. Not the best deal of my life. And I could have tried again, but I think the samurai horses ate my luck. Since my army didn't recover from the previous battles yet, I decided to unwind in the next city. Especially a good idea considering the boss battle was on the horizon. I deposited all of my gold to make sure I lose none of it and didn't even take a look at available units to recruit. I felt confident with my current army. I don't need more temptations. It was time to face the last battle of Act 2. The game once again predicted my defeat, underestimating the power of my army organizing skills. The RNG was in my favor and I deployed second. Thanks to that, I was able to see where the legendary Oni and siege weapons were. And just like before, the priority targets were the siege weapons. Because of that, the samurai horses were proven to be a great choice here. They went through the artillery like a knife through butter, or touchy in this case. But victory became uncertain when my frontline started to collapse. I actually started to believe the auto-resolve might have been correct. But as hope started to fade away, the rescue arrived on time, turning the tide from being overwhelmed to surround the enemy. And let's just ignore the damage my cavalry suffered from friendly fire. Unfortunately, my cannon crew was left exposed and... so my cannons died again. But the Gobopult was able to escape because routing units cannot be killed, and I must give credit to the little goblin crew. They were quite eager to face the enemy in melee. This battle was close and I lost some units, but that only means I have more space for better ones. From the survivors I recruited more samurais, and from my recruitment pool I grabbed some Templars. So now I had even stronger frontline and I didn't have to kick out anyone. Oh, and also got a duplicate unit potion, which you wouldn't guess duplicates an existing unit on level 1. And so the final act began, the Halls of Hammerfall, which meant my next enemy was the dwarves. I grabbed a quick heal before the next battle, and I used the duplicate potion to replace one of the Levi units with Templars. It was time to put them to good use. The next fight took place among some trees. which is great because the dwarves love gunpowder, and forests offer 25% range resistance. Unfortunately, nature was on the enemy side with all the forests. The enemy deployed 2 units behind my army, but I was expecting it, so I sent a counterattack. And even if the forests offered damage resistance, it was not protecting them from my exploding gobos, sending them flying. The armies were even, but because of the 2 outriders in the back and the knockback of my siege weapon, the dwarves got separated from each other. And the observant ones among you noticed the shield icons above my frontline. These icons shows when a unit is in a defense stance. So my frontline had 50% extra melee defense in exchange for 50% of their melee attack. Even without my cavalry, my Templars and Samurai just stomped the enemy. Now, I love my pointy-eared elf archers, but I would never say no to gunpowder. I also got a major healing potion and upgraded my spear infantry. Since my cavalry was not in the best shape, I used the healing potion to shape them back up. The battlefield ahead was rainy, which meant my horses had to obey the local speed limit. Besides, have you seen a horse running in rain? It's nonsense. Fortunately, my gunpowder is water resistant. Unfortunately, theirs too. For the deployment, I rolled a 6, so I was able to see their formation and plan accordingly. Because my samurai horses had a crippling fear of water, instead of charging the enemy cannons, I marched the army forward together. My brave soldiers took some hits, but as the front line was pushing, my gobos used their superior technology to destroy the enemy cannons. Said technology being the kamikaze gobos. Then I noticed the dwarves trying to sneak their militarized goat charges to my backline. It's the cavalry. For a dwarf. The enemy cannons were destroyed, so I aimed my catapults at the chargers with an archer backup. This unfortunately was not effective, and I started to worry about my catapults. And we can witness the slowest chase in the history of land battles. In the meantime, the battle was turning in my favor, and I was able to save my gobos. At this point, you can see the skirmishes are becoming more challenging. I won the battle, but I almost lost 3 units. Shout out to this last gunner. His cowardness saved my whole unit. After the battle, I got a major healing potion again, which I used to quickly recover my gunners. I also disbanded my spears because at this point they were useless. And we fought so impressively that these dwarf shield bearers decided to join us. Next, I went to the village to heal and deposit some gold. Then I sent my archers home to use dwarf crossbows instead. To celebrate, I went gambling and I won some gold. I could have healed more, but gambling. Then I had to decide, do I want to spend money or gamble? Spend money or gamble? I went to gamble, and I won again. And the game was tempting me with the 3rd Gamba visit, but I said no. I went to the campfire and my Templars leveled up. I guess I was lucky. I visited the next castle. I healed up to full health and said goodbye to my dwarves. Because canon. I'm sure they understand. Because I deposited some gold, I wanted to farm some more. And behold, there was a battle to unfold. I had to deploy first, but at this point it doesn't matter. I had a solid tactic. I set my strong front line forward and cavalry on the sides to support. The enemy cannons stood no chance against my superior gobos. The gunners took care of the enemy vanguard unit and their archers decimated my samurais. The latter was actually not part of the plan. But at least you can see how effective rapid fire can be, so I take it as a win. I also sent my gobos charging in because I'm not good at micro. Sadly, this time I lost my samurai horses and other samurai unit, but that's not important. My cannons were also wiped at the start of the battle. But it's alright because I got new dwarf cannons, with some new archers and gunners. Let's hope they will serve me better. I hopped over to the campfire, healed, and it dawned on me. This is the finish line. So I went to the last city, healed up my last wounds, then swapped the low-tier archers with much better berserkers. And with all my confidence in my skills, I deposited my remaining gold. This is the final boss battle after all. After all the preparations were done, I went into the final battle. Now, this army doesn't look as bad. They don't have any cannons or a doom stack of gunners. The legendary unit looked scary, but I still had my gobopult. And I'm pretty sure this is my longest surviving unit in the army. A bunch of suicidal gobos. Let that sink in. It was a river battlefield, so I had the advantage of the choke point. I had to deploy first, but it was fine, because I just had to make sure the enemy went into the river crossing. I set a formation making sure that I can surround the enemy after they cross. As always, the AI put the Outrider behind me, but my cannons and my gunners took care of it. The rest of the enemy charged into us from the front, but these guys were actually fast. For a dwarf. Both of my siege weapons were shooting at the legendary unit, and it might not look like it, but they were getting hurt. The impact delayed their arrival quite a lot, allowing my gunners to shoot into the charging enemy, and my shield wall was ready to tank them. I must admit, watching dwarves bounce around in the battlefield was quite satisfying. But those who reached my front line wished they didn't, because charging into full armored Templar must be a tall order, for a dwarf. But the alternative is to die to a flying explosive goblin, so maybe the Templars are better. Nonetheless, they were dying and my army stood its ground. Maybe all of these battles in Total War did teach me something. Or maybe I'm just the lowest difficulty with good RNG. A mystery for the ages. And with that, Act 3 was done, and that means the first run was completed. So I unlocked the second Iron Legion hero and the next difficulty. I could have gained more gold, but it's fine. Better to be safe than sorry. Because gold can be used for upgrades. Upgrade people, upgrades! Before the next campaign, let's check what upgrades we can unlock. So in this menu we have this branching upgrade tree, like unlocking the first reserve slot or the things I was able to afford. Starting gear, extra starting gold, and +1 gold after the battles. After that I checked out the collections menu, and I loved that the units are represented by their tabletop minis. I am something of a mini painter myself. But let's pick up the next campaign. As I promised, our second faction will be elves. The Tylinder Forest. Because as I mentioned earlier, they have great archers and an amazing frontline. Just like in Total Warhammer 3, the elves have a decent army even on a low tier. So my starting army is smaller, but already stronger. On top of that, this faction offers these two bonuses. The battle bonus buffs standing units even further, making them even stronger over time. The campaign bonus, however, was already changed by the developer from this one to this one. Shout out to the developer again, TJ, who is updating the game daily, fixing bugs, rebalancing things, and adding new stuff. For the 1.1 release, we will get magic. And they already planned 2 new factions for the 1.2 update. As for the hero effects, we get a charge and melee attack buff, plus a new post-battle option. The latter is pretty good. But now let's start the new campaign on difficulty level 2 and with a starting gear. I hopped on the first node to pick up my gear. Wait a second, does this say Texan barbecue? Where was this item when I had all these guns? Not only does it sound tasty, but the buffs is quite beefy. Although I feel like it should buff range units, not melee units. But I have only melee units, so I won't complain. I started with the middle skirmish. The gobos have the higher number, but my units were far superior. Wolves here count as large, so even they weren't a threat. The gobo archers used almost all of their arrows, and yet my unit's health didn't really move. Nothing gets past these elven shields, not even maidens. Be aware of the elf maidens. After all the gobos died on our shields, I got some gold, a potion that gives me more gold, and I recruited some archers. And I decided to adopt these poor doggos from the boglins. Boglins? I think my autocorrect gave up on me. But anyway, we marched further. During the next battle we fought in the forest, which made their arrows even less effective. And the whole thing can be summarized as, we took our new doggos to the park to play. As in, chew up some nasty, helpless goblins. Even though this battle was just a walk in the park, the trees got so impressed that they decided to join us. And looking at these stats, plus the 2 traits, Forest Dweller and Armor Piercing, I knew they will be great. I also got another potion that gives me gold, so I drank both of them, and my dogs had such a fun day that they made me grab some gobos, so they can play fetch. Next, I visited a village where I noticed that the Japanese tried to have nicer hair than my elf warriors. This cannot stand. So I raided the village. Siege battles or garrison battles are much easier than in other games. A little bit too easy at the time of this video at least. Out of habit, I wanted to move behind the enemy defense line, but this red line meant I couldn't go closer. It might have been a bug. The goal is to destroy an enemy gate because the wall cannot be damaged, and I can damage enemy units only after the gate gets destroyed, creating this big blob at the choke point, and I'm very happy that I had no cannons. After the successful raid, I got some gold, an item that doubles my health recovery, and I recruited some Japanese men who wanted to join because they couldn't resist the shine of our hair. After the raid, I had an unknown event ahead of me. It was another forest battle. But this map had a fountain in the middle, which could give me +5 melee defense, so I tried to position my units near it. Unfortunately, my elf archers got flanked, but I was able to help them in time. I lost a few soldiers, but most of them were not elves, so I don't care. My reward was gold, a major healing potion, and some orcs who called me war boss and told me, "Wah!" I think they will fit in. By the way, I love the atmosphere of the game. That's my dude and that's my opponent, and we are just playing in the middle of the tavern. A tabletop tavern. The shop didn't interest me as much as the hidden event, so I chose the question mark. I think the game knows I am a girl. Since I was already here, there was no harm in checking out the stock. I decided to buy a potion to level up one of my units. My 3 men were the lucky ones. The next question mark was a battle. The enemy was not very impressive, but this time they were faster, so they died on my shield wall faster. Impressive! I picked more forest spirits, and I think I'm gonna make a wood elf video in the future. Some wolf riders joined my ranks and my army started to look very green. It felt wrong, but green is a nice color, so it's fine. From here we went to the next town, and I want you to know, I believe in freedom, justice, and the American way. So I started blasting. The lack of siege weapon on my end didn't discourage me from storming this settlement. This time I was smarter and I focused the gate on the left. The gates are apparently easy to break, so I just charged in and didn't suffer many losses. After most of the defenders were defeated, the pathfinding got a little bit confused. This game is truly inspired by Total War. I tried to destroy the middle gate to help my units reach the cannons. It was somewhat effective, but also victory was mine. And my reward was dwarven tax collectors. Do they come with an accountant too? And I swapped out my Japanese bowmen because their performance was a shameful display to some crossbowmen. On my way to the next tower, I was stopped by goblins. This army looked more formidable, but I still had a stronger army composition. The map gave me the tower that buffs my range units with +5 accuracy, so I cramped all of them in its range. They had a gobopult, which was giving me some headache. It was targeting my poor archers, but my dogs took care of it. And look, they even survived. The battle was a little bit bloody, but we came out on top, proving that the battle bonus is insanely good. Now you remember how great the gobopult was. I had to have it, and the game gave it to me. I also checked what units I can recruit, and since my army was full, I leveled up my militia to silver prestige. After the delay, I arrived at the tavern, and looking at my units, knowing that the boss fight was coming up, I decided to gamble. We can heal in the next city anyway. I marched forward, and even if I didn't need healing, I wouldn't touch that garrison. Then I realized that I actually have to pay for recruiting units in settlements. It took me a moment to remember that only the Iron Legion can recruit for free. But the game told me that for 40 gold I have a chance to grab a rare unit. So I decided why not. So I clicked it. And I got scammed. Do you think they are still angry about that raiding and pillaging? It doesn't matter too much since we will be leaving this area after the next battle anyway. While the enemy army composition is a bit different than last time, they still brought in the gobopult and siege claws. The plan to deal with it was simple. One artillery being shot by my own and the other rushed by my wolf raiders. Unfortunately, their gobopult won against mine. But their sacrifice was not for nothing, as the archers finished the job. Meanwhile, the riders reached the siege claws without a hit because it was focusing on the crossbowmen. The raiders and the reindeer guard quickly destroyed them. Then I turned them towards the enemy backline. This prompted the flanking bonus, which worked like a charm with the added terrified debuff from the trance. The enemy was surrounded, shot at, and pushed around. The only unit trying to stand his ground was the Stonehewer giant, but even he ran from the battlefield in the end. Shameful display. He came back to join my army right after though. I also grabbed more Erindale guards. And thus I finished the first act of the Elven campaign with yet another victory. This time, Act 2 was happening in the north. Nice change of scenery. And there is no Chaos Waste here, just nice snowy land. It was so snowy, I had to ask, "Do you wanna build a snowman?" Sorry, it will happen again. After a short rest, I marched into a river battle. Although the river wasn't frozen, I had 2 crossing points. I knew that the AI would push in the center, so the right side is open for my fast units. Luckily for me, the enemy rushed in, leaving their Gobopult open. And I don't rush to the choke point because I wanted their army to spread out. So, after my Wolf Raiders dealt with the Gobopult, they were able to charge in. The enemy was getting crushed by my large units and stopped by the Raiders. Flanking is extremely useful. The enemy quickly collapsed and I grabbed my loot. This included leveling up my guards and taking their bolt throwers. Next, because I am a woman of adventure, I picked the unknown. The unknown node ahead revealed itself to be a gamble spot. However, I resisted the shine of gold and instead spent it on healing my wounded army. This path led me to a village that was poorly defended. I'm sure they will be fine. Regrettably, the gear was not worth it, but I still took the gold. And despite the Orc Ravagers being uncommon rarity, the Levy Swordman actually had some better stats. This time it was chest full of loot. Loot I couldn't carry. Also, I only had 3 ranged units and I'm pretty sure this ring was cursed. Potion seemed like safe choice here. In the shop next door for a brief second I was drawn to buy another chest, but just in time I realized I have no space. So ended up buying small healing potion for my forest spirits. Oh look! This time I was free to gamble since my army was almost full health. Almost. I didn't have a fortune to bet, so I picked a small one and we got a tie. Cool game. Very cool. It was finally time to march into another battle. Once more, it was cut by a river. I didn't fully consider that the enemy might just go around the lake instead of using the choke point crossing. Now, as I think of it, I would probably do the same. I left their artillery unbothered for a little bit longer than I had planned, but once I remembered about my Wolf Riders, it was gone. Which didn't change the artillery damage being done to my units as I forgot to stop my own from shooting, right into the back of my army. My tactic of surround and smash won the battle once more. It was becoming increasingly more difficult to choose which units to keep and which to change. I liked my army composition, but upgrades are necessary, and I think these forest spirits could use one now. As a D&D lover, I was very much drawn to these story bits, so I went ahead and did another one. This chapter was about the gathering of chieftains. The possible outcomes were pretty good. The chieftains invited me, and out of all these options, I chose to flex my authority. So I demanded their support in the form of a unit if I can roll high enough. Clearly, this is a good D20. And they gave me forest spirits. The unit I just got rid of. Thank you, game. But at least I got paid. The road ahead offered me 2 battles. One was rainy and the other one was snowy. I'm sure my giant appreciated that I chose rain, and I'm pretty sure he needed a shower. The enemy fearlessly charged into my army. The poor fools. Who would win? A bunch of bloodthirsty, battle-hardened women? Or this guy?
That is bloody lovely!
Despite them having some spears and trying to send them at my giant, he looked at their toothpicks and giggled as they tickled him. What a chump, even double damage was nothing to him. Unfortunately, I lost the forest spirits on the left flank, but I would have sent them home anyway. It's the circle of life. My Treeman and the giant took barely any damage. This victory gave me another Treeman unit, despite offering me some beautiful elven horses. But these trends are just too good. The giant was also such a worthy opponent to the Valkyries that they really wanted to join him, even if he looks kinda British. Moving on, I decided to pay a visit to a lizard city. Well, I sure hope I won't have to face these guys in the future.
Foreshadowing is a narrative device.
I wanted to save up the gold that I had because I am scaredy cat. But according to my chat, the gold interest applies up to 25 gold. That money I can risk. And it was time for the second boss fight. The enemy army looked quite strong, and this time I didn't have the super gobos. So the other resolve predicted a defeat. But I had faith. By the way, thanks for the tip, game. Very helpful. The battlefield was a snowy river, which meant morale can be an issue here. I checked their unit placement and saw the legendary unit on the left. I reshuffled my army a little bit, and once they started marching, I focused the strongest units. Even if my bolt throwers don't deal much damage, they will definitely delay them. As usual, I sent my wolf riders on the side to kill their siege weapon and then backstab the enemy. You see, this is where the morale penalty comes in handy. My 3 men flanking them from the sides and my riders charging from the back meant that their morale was breaking faster. Therefore, even if stronger, their higher stats meant nothing. So the battle ended in the decisive victory, and I earned my first rare elf unit, which was an elven starholder. I didn't use these a lot during my earlier campaign. As a bonus, I swapped my crossbows for a rare Varangian guard. And Act 2 was completed. Act 3 was the Primordial Rift. That means lizards. Yuppie! So Act 3 will be a struggle, because despite my army being large, in terms of anti-large, I don't have a lot. So my best bet was the armor-piercing trance and the bolt throwers. I set up my army inside the forest to help with their charge and to provide some shade. It was sunny on the tabletop map. As the enemy was charging my army, the bolt throwers were proven effective against the dragon. I think I saw a movie about this. I also want to point out that the low-tier elf archers are still quite reliable. You go, archer boys! My army emerged victorious without suffering a lot of losses, so I thought it was time for a promotion. Trust me, it's the same guys. And although the lizard units were tempting, I liked my army as it was. Also, now you can see that the battles are getting tougher. This army has more rare and strong units than anything before, and it's only the second battle. Just like before, my ranged focused the dragons. My giant decided to take on a dragon and its friends alone, like a true champion. I admired his enthusiasm, but he couldn't have all the fun. My large units were dealing damage supported by the infantry. This tactic worked, however, my army was starting to get beaten up. Not as beaten as these lizards, but still losing some health. So, next I was thinking about swapping my spear infantry because that was the last common unit. But they were still going strong, I didn't even get damaged too badly. So I swapped my great weapon infantry into more spears. I need that anti-large. Since reading isn't my strong suit, I didn't notice I can only recruit tier 1 units at this settlement. I was like, what a deal! But it was not a deal. So I just left some money in the bank and moved on. Since we already had 2 battles, I decided to check out the question mark node. It turned out to be a campfire, so I chose to level up one of my units. It made my spears golden boys now. Next stop, shop. I didn't need any more units, so I mainly focused my attention to available potions. This one looked interesting. Let's see what it gave me. Yes, more units. Thank you, game. I needed just that. But let's move on. I chose the battlefield with a river. Choke points are good against large units, right? Unfortunately, their artillery was better than mine, and they killed it before it could have escaped. Elves are not known for their siege weapons. But their ballista dinos were also killed, and without their support, they all died on our spears. So this battle was rather uneventful. By the way, yes, we were fighting dinosaurs with siege weapons on them. Not lasers though, lasers would have been cool. Or my favorite healing dino. But instead I grabbed my own dino bolt throwers. And it was time to say goodbye to the wolf raiders. And hello, pretty horses! We stopped for a quick heal and marched on to the next forest battle. This time they had 2 dino ballistas, but I had a tower. They deployed their raptor raiders behind us, but regrettably I didn't catch them in time. Some of them got to the ballistas and they broke very quickly. Don't die, but they were useless. So it was up to the elven riders to get rid of the Triceratops. Don't ask me how, but they did it. Surrounding them and poking them worked quite well. The enemy blobbed up, which was perfect for me. as the observant among you already spotted the flanking icons. Their forces were chopped into pieces by our spearmen and treants. But I am very sorry to report the devastating news that our big boy giant made the ultimate sacrifice. He thought well, he was with us for a long time, may he continue his fight. I don't even know where giants go after they die. In its place I picked more beautiful horses, and I replaced my bolt throwers with Dyna bolt throwers. Now we are getting to the endgame, and I didn't have a lot of gold. So I went for another battle to farm a little bit more and to see if I could grab any other unit. Oh, and the elf riders are called Star Striders, which is amazing. That's where my giant is, among the stars. As the battle started, they tried to sneak raptor riders behind us, but they charged in the forest into my treant, so that didn't go well for them. The rest of the enemy started to blob in the middle and I had to turn off my siege weapon, because that friendly fire hurts. So, to utilize my advantage, I started to cycle charging with my riders. After a few hits, their morale vanished. The battle was won and I had my own dragon. It gave me the confidence that I can actually finish this run. I still deposited most of my gold at the next city, so I went into the boss fight a little bit less nervous. The final battle looked terrifying. A small force was already bad, but look at this army. I still had faith in my units and I was actually struggling to decide who to bring. But I didn't want to delay, so I chose these units and started the battle. Once again, the highest priority was the siege weapons and the legendary unit. But my army lost momentum. This battle was tough. My Dino Ballistas did barely any damage and I started to lose faith. It looked quite even. And as the blob was chewing through units, I realized I might lose this. Was this the end? All those battles? Those lost units just to fail at the end? Is this why my giant died? But then the enemy started to lose ground. Our faction buff was working. With my riders flanking them from behind, they were surrounded. The morale debuff was kicking in, and even with the center being open, they couldn't push forward. My superior tactics have won the battle. The final victory was mine. All 3 acts completed. And now I had a new hero unlocked and more gold to spend on upgrades. So, if this video gets 1000 likes, I will make another on God King difficulty. The god may have mercy on me. Bye bye!